Exposed, the heartwarming truth of a cowboy who discovered the incredible worth of a hidden gem. Jack Tanner was a man of the land, a devoted cowboy with dirt under his fingernails and a heart as wide as Texas itself. In his mid-30s, he bore the weight of a family legacy that felt heavier each day. The Tanner Ranch had stood for generations, a proud symbol of hard work and unwavering spirit in a small Texas town. But as financial troubles loomed like a storm cloud, threatening to snatch away everything he held dear, Jack found himself trapped in a desperate fight. An ambitious developer had set their sights on the land, dreaming of a sprawling shopping center that would erase his family's history under layers of concrete and steel. As he trudged through the fields, Jack's thoughts were muddied with worry. He could almost hear the whispers of his ancestors, urging him to protect what had been built with blood, sweat, and tears. Seeking a moment of respite, he took a break from the relentless Californian sun and wandered to the outskirts of his ranch. That's when he stumbled upon a decrepit barn long forgotten, its wooden bones creaking in the wind like a conversation from the past. Curiosity pulled him inside. What he found there was like stumbling onto buried treasure. The old barn was a museum of memories, a collection of dusty farm tools, faded photographs depicting families celebrating life's milestones, and letters that echoed the town's struggles and triumphs. Each item sparkled with stories waiting to be told, each a testament to the spirit of community that had shaped them all. With newfound inspiration igniting a fire in his heart, Jack envisioned transforming that barn into a community museum. It would be a beacon of recognition for the roots they shared, a place for neighbors to gather and for children to learn about the twinkling tapestry of their town's history. How beautiful it would be to unite the community under the banner of their shared past, but not everyone saw it that way. The developer's eyes narrowed in on Jack's dreams and the tension between profit and heritage mounted. As whispers of a showdown spread like wildfire, local veterans, elderly townsfolk, and worried families joined Jack, fueling a collective uprising to protect their hometown. The truth of their connection, once buried beneath layers of resentment and apathy, began to surface. The museum could be the heart of their new beginnings, healing old wounds and sparking hope. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The challenge intensified as Jack faced relentless pressure from the developer, who sought to dismantle the growing unity among townsfolk. They would dismiss him as merely a cowboy, a man clinging to an old dream, but Jack held tight to the truth. What he was fighting for was not just his family's ranch, but for the soul of a community that deserved to be cherished. As the showdown loomed ever closer, it became painfully clear that the price of standing up for one's roots might involve heartbreaking sacrifices. Just as he readied himself for the battle ahead, an unexpected revelation emerged, one that hinted at a shocking secret behind the developer's motives. The heart of this fight was more complicated than anyone had imagined, and Jack found himself faced with an impossible choice. How would he protect what he loved most when everything hung in the balance? As the sun began to set, painting the Texas sky in hues of orange and purple, Jack could feel a change in the air. The town was alive with chatter as more people joined him in the fight against the impending development. Flyers were posted all around the diner, the community hall, and even handed out at the local church service, each a testament to a collective resistance that was slowly forming. But despite the hope blossoming in the hearts of those around him, Jack's thoughts were plagued by doubt. The revelation about the developer's motives was hard to process. Word had spread that the developer, Jenna Sloan, had roots in the town too, a family tied to the land Jack now fought to protect. Why hadn't she mentioned this? Why was she trying to erase the history she was a part of? Jack! Margie, a widowed rancher known for her spirited personality, called out as she approached, her hands on her hips. "You're not going to let them steamroll you, are you? We need to make our voices heard." He looked her in the eye and nodded, feeling the weight of her expectation. "We'll hold a town meeting. Gather everyone at the barn. We can outline our vision for the museum and make it clear that this community isn't backing down." "Right on," she said, her enthusiasm contagious. The spark in her eyes sent a shiver of determination through him. Jack smiled, feeling the fear begin to ebb away. That night, as Jack lay in bed, his mind racing, he replayed the words of his father, who had ever so often talked about the strength of a community. You don't just build a life alone, son. You build it with those who stand beside you. The following day, news of the meeting spread like wildfire. The barn was filled with faces he recognized: friends, neighbors, people from different generations. There was a palpable energy in the room, a shared understanding of the stakes involved. It took only a few minutes for Jack to realize that everyone was just as anxious and frustrated as he was. Thank you all for coming tonight, Jack started, his voice steadying with each word. This is our chance to reclaim our history. To remind Jenna and anyone who thinks they can take our land that this ranch hasn't just been home to my family, it has stories etched into every floorboard of that barn, every blade of grass in these fields. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for the legacy of all who came before us. The room erupted into applause, the sound reverberating against the walls of the barn like a thunderous chorus. In that moment, Jack could feel hope intertwine with uncertainty. But the adrenaline was unmistakable, lifting him as he continued to speak, urging the crowd to envision the space transformed into a living museum, a place of history, of community. Amid cheers and nods around the room, a gasp cut through his thoughts when Jenna walked in. Jack's heart raced. What was she doing there? How much had she overheard? He glanced at Margie, who raised an eyebrow in surprise, echoing Jack's own confusion. Jenna stood at the back, her expression unreadable. Jack, she finally called out, her voice steady but laced with something deeper, almost vulnerable. Can we talk? As the noise of the crowd faded to whispers, Jack felt his pulse quicken. Could this be the moment that changed everything? Would her words bring clarity, or would they spill more secrets that could shatter the fragile hope they had built? Sure, he replied, stepping down from the makeshift podium. The eyes of the community hung on him, full of expectation, possibly more than he could bear. What now? He thought, pulling in a breath, uncertain of what lay ahead but knowing he had to find out. As the room fell quiet, each heartbeat rang loud in the tense silence, waiting for her next words. What could Jenna reveal that would change the course of this battle? Jack stepped into the crowded barn, the air thick with anticipation. Every set of eyes felt like lasers, focused on him. He could only imagine what was going through Jenna's mind as she stood there, her once mighty resolve seemingly crumbling. He steadied himself, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. What do you want to talk about? He asked, his voice breaking slightly. He was surprised by the warmth that crept into his tone despite the tension. He didn't know if he wanted to be angry or understanding. Jenna took a step forward, the light from the hanging bulbs above catching the sheen of her nervous hands. I wanted to explain all of it. But first, I need you to know how much I love this town. Her eyes flickered with an emotion that seemed almost foreign. I've spent summers here as a child. This is my home too, a place that shaped who I am. Jack crossed his arms instinctively, trying to keep his emotions in check. It felt like a betrayal. How could you do this to your own hometown? You're tearing it apart. I didn't mean for it to go this way, Jenna pleaded, her voice trembling ever so slightly. When I took over my family's legacy, I wanted to modernize, to do right by the town. I thought it would bring progress. I didn't consider how much the land truly means to the people here. A wave of murmurs rippled through the barn, the crowd straining to catch every word. Jack could feel the collective breath hold tight in their throats. So you just thought you'd build something new and erase the past? He shot back, pain lacing his words. This land carries the memories of so many. You can't just sweep them aside for profit. Jack, please. You have to understand, Jenna continued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I didn't know how to honor the past while still moving forward. And when I saw you trying to save it, something shifted inside me. I realized that I had to reconnect with it, not bulldoze over it. For a brief moment, Jack saw the struggle in her face, a reflection of his own turmoil. But the anger still bubbled just beneath the surface. What do you want from me? You're asking for understanding when you're the one holding the axe. I can't change what I've done, Jack. But I can change how we move forward. Her voice gained strength. We could work together. Make this place a mix of past and future, create a living museum that tells the story of the town and empowers it. Jack felt the ground shift under him. Was she being sincere? Could he trust her after everything? The crowd watched, a sea of uncertainty and curiosity. If Jenna truly meant what she said, it could mean a whole new direction. As he stood there, wrestling with the possibilities, Margie stepped up beside him. Jack, think about it. It could be an opportunity. She scrutinized Jenna, looking for any hint of deception. Then she met Jack's eyes, a silent plea for him to consider the leap of faith. What if it doesn't work out? Jack asked Jenna, his voice strained but softening. How do we know you won't change your mind again? Because I found my heart in this town, Jack, Jenna said, desperation mingling with hope in her tone. And I want to honor the people who love it as much as I do. Let us build it together. The air shifted, charged with anticipation. Jack glanced around the barn, the expressions of hope and uncertainty mirrored his own feelings. Could a budding partnership really bloom from the ashes of betrayal? Jack took a short breath and nodded, feeling a mixture of trepidation and intrigue. All right, let us talk about this, but it'll take more than just words. The crowd buzzed with energy, the whispers now filled with cautious optimism. But as Jenna stepped closer, a new worry crept in. What if this change brought more heartache than healing? Jack knew he had to tread carefully. Let us see if your actions can match your words, he murmured, his heart racing with both dread and anticipation, not entirely sure where this path might lead them. Would they create something beautiful from the ruins of rivalry, or deepen the divide they had only just begun to bridge? Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he faced Jenna. The crowd slowly began to absorb the weight of their conversation. A tension hung thick in the air, the type that can only be carved away with time or a moment of honesty. Are you really serious about this? He asked, his voice steadier now, the anger ebbing to a low simmer. You want to honor the town? Because it sounds almost too good to be true. I know, Jenna replied, desperation intertwining with sincerity. But if we don't try, how will we ever know? This could be a chance to turn things around. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. Just to open your mind to the possibilities. Scattered murmurs broke out once more. Jack's eyes darted around the barn, taking in the complicated mix of expressions from deep skepticism to flashing glimmers of hope. Margie leaned in closer, her brow furrowed. If there is even a chance, you have to consider it, Jack. The words weighed heavy on him. Jack thought of his childhood, bouncing on hay bales in that very barn, exploring every inch of the winding trails that led through the fields. Memories danced before his eyes of summers spent fishing in the creek and laughter so sweet it echoed. He felt a pang, realizing he might be fighting against an evolution he hadn't quite grasped yet. What's your plan? He asked, feeling a cautious spark ignite. We start with the locals, Jenna said, her voice steadying. Let us gather stories, bring in our community to share their experiences. We can host workshops about the history of our land. It's not about erasing the past, it's about weaving it into the fabric of our future. Can you see that? Jack's mind raced as he considered her words. Could they truly blend the past with the future? Or was she just reciting a script loaded with promises? Just as doubt began crawling back, a flicker of excitement sparked deep inside him. What if we hold a town meeting? He suggested slowly. You can present your ideas, and we can open the floor to the community. They should have a say in all of this. Jenna's face lit up. Yes. That's perfect. It needs to be a conversation, not a dictate. If the town is behind it, it'll make the transition smoother. He could see the passion radiating from her, and despite himself, Jack felt something shift. Hope. It was fragile yet solid, akin to a child's first steps, unsteady but courageous. Nearby, Margie whispered to him, "You're doing the right thing, Jack." But even as he took a step closer to Jenna, the worry flickered in his gut. What if they put in the effort and nothing came of it? What if Jenna faltered again? As if reading his thoughts, Jenna reached out and took his hand, squeezing it tightly. I won't let you down again, she said, her voice a low promise. Not this time. Relaxing his grip, Jack nodded, though uncertainty still clung like fog in the early morning light. All right, let us set it up. We'll give it a good shot. The crowd buzzed again, voices rising as they started to plan the town meeting. Jack caught snippets of laughter, plans being made, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a semblance of excitement replace the despair that had worked its way into his heart. But as the conversations grew, the question gnawed at him: was trust something to be rebuilt, or was it forever stained by selfish decisions? Every decision he made from that moment forward would be a step into the unknown, one filled with the potential to rise or fall. Jack took a deep breath, his heart racing with hope and anxiety. Let us finish what we started, he whispered under his breath, ready to dive into a world wrought with possibility, fear, and anticipation as his only companions. And as Jenna's gaze met his, a sizzling connection promised to expose the vulnerability they both faced in a town that had secrets buried deep within its soil. But just then, a familiar face emerged from the back of the barn, one Jack had never expected to see again. Would this surprise bring trouble or a glimmer of a solution to the chaos surrounding them? Jack's heart skipped as he recognized the figure stepping forward, a tall man with sun-kissed skin and an easy grin that could light up the darkest day. It was Ethan, his childhood friend. The years hadn't dulled his spirit, the youthful mischief still danced in his hazel eyes. Jack felt a rush of emotions flood through him, joy mingled with a sudden fear of what Ethan's presence might mean. Ethan! Jack exclaimed, his voice breaking the charged atmosphere in the barn. Jenna turned, her expression shifting between surprise and curiosity. The crowd paused, eyes locking onto the unexpected reunion. Ethan grinned wider, raising his hands in mock surrender. Relax. I'm not here to cause trouble, not today, at least. Jack stepped forward, the initial joy giving way to a cautious approach. What were you doing back here? I thought you moved to the city for good. Needed a change of scenery, Ethan shrugged, his voice casual. The hustle and bustle of the big city wasn't as charming as they said. I missed this place. Figured I'd check and see how my old crew was faring. Ethan's gaze slid to Jenna, and Jack could sense curiosity mixing with skepticism. He felt the tension rise again. Would Ethan be a supporter or a skeptic? You caught us at a turning point, Jack said, gauging his friend's reaction. We're trying to revitalize the town. Jenna's got some ideas to bring us all together. Ethan's brows arched upward. Jenna, right? The one who stirred things up last time? Yeah, that's me. Jenna took a small step forward, her voice steady. I'm not here to erase mistakes but to build on what we have. You'd be surprised what we can achieve when we put our heads together. Ethan crossed his arms, studying her carefully, and Jack's stomach twisted in knots. Would his friend dismiss their plans outright? But then, Ethan's expression softened, and he leaned in, dropping his voice low. Look, I've seen a lot of towns give up on their roots. But if I've learned anything, it's that community means everything. If you're serious about this, I want in. The barn erupted in whispers, the air charged with a new energy. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. Maybe this was the glimmer of hope they needed, a tangible ally who had seen the world and still believed in the essence of home. Really? Jack's doubt slipped away momentarily. You'd join us? Absolutely. But, Ethan warned, pointing at Jack for emphasis, you gotta be prepared for a tough road ahead. Not everyone will be as keen on these ideas. Some folks have really settled into their reservations. Nods of agreement scattered through the crowd. Jack glanced at Jenna, who looked as relieved as he felt. We're ready. We have to face the music, we just need to make sure everyone feels welcomed. Ethan grinned, and for a fleeting moment, they were kids again, dreaming about endless summer days. Count me in, then. We'll need to get the word out. I've got connections from my travels. And together? I think we can turn this place around. As they discussed ideas, laughter and camaraderie began to weave through the room. Jack felt the warmth of friendship surround him, like the cozy glow of the barn's lights casting out shadows of doubt, but as the excitement bubbled, Jenna's eyes caught the light in a different way. A flicker of worry crossed her features when she looked towards the barn doors. We can't lose sight of the past either. If we're doing this, we need to be honest about what we're facing. There are still those who won't forgive easily. Before Jack could respond, the noise of a truck rumbling outside interrupted their gathering, amplifying the tension once more. The voices in the barn hushed, curiosity drawing everyone to the entrance. "Who is that?" Jack asked, his heart racing again. And just as the doors swung open to reveal a familiar but unwelcome face, Jack felt a jolt of dread. Would this new arrival shatter the fragile hope they'd just begun to build? The figure stepped into the dim light of the barn, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. It was Mark, the local businessman who had always been more of a storm cloud than a ray of sunshine. His face was set in a determined scowl, and the crowd tensed, whispering among themselves. Jack could almost feel the chill of Mark's presence seep into the warmth they had just ignited. "Ethan," Mark said, his voice echoing through the barn. "Of all people to show up at a time like this. What are you trying to pull?" Ethan straightened, his easy demeanor fading as he took a step forward. "I came to help, Mark. You know this town needs it." Mark replied with a scoffing laugh, crossing his arms defiantly. "Help? Please. What do you know about running a business or a town? You've been out there living your lavish city life while we've been stuck dealing with the fallout here." Jack's heart sank. He could feel the tension crackling like dry kindling, waiting for a spark. This wasn't how it was supposed to work. They had just welcomed Ethan, and now Mark was planting seeds of doubt. "Mark, that's not fair," Jack intervened, hoping to bridge the widening chasm. "We're all trying to work together. Maybe you could hear us out instead of shutting us down." Mark rolled his eyes, dismissing Jack's words. What good is working together if it just leads to another failure? This town wasn't built on dreams, it was built on hard work. And you think folks will just forget the past? The group shifted uncomfortably. Jenna stepped forward, her voice steady yet firm. "We're not here to forget the past. We need to build on it. There is strength in understanding where we come from, and together, we can do something different." "Together?" Mark repeated, incredulous. "The same people who turned their backs and let this town rot? And now you want to gather everyone around a campfire and sing Kumbaya?" Jack felt frustration bubbling inside him. "We're not talking about fairy tales. We're talking about ideas that can bring life back here. Don't you care at all?" The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel the eyes of the crowd, weighing the words carefully. Was this how it would end before it began? Ethan broke the silence, stepping closer to Mark. "You have a good heart deep down somewhere, Mark. If you really care about this place, why not support the idea? Why not see what it can become?" Mark considered this, hesitating just for a moment. The tension hung in the air, swaying like a pendulum. Then, he sneered. "Support? And what if it all goes to hell? You think I'm just going to sit back and watch while you make a mess of things?" There was a collective gasp from the crowd. Jack felt his muscles tense, anger washing over him. "For once, can you just take a chance?" Mark narrowed his eyes, flicking his gaze towards the expectant crowd. Jack could sense the storm brewing within him, the tension, the frustration. Then, as if stepped upon, Mark stomped back towards the door, his expression hardened. "I'll see you at the next town meeting," he shouted as he walked outside, slamming the door behind him. The barn stood in silence. Jack felt the air thicken with uncertainty, the whispers echoing like ghosts around him. Jenna looked around, the flicker of hope now dimmed. Ethan finally broke the silence. "It's not over yet, right? We still have each other." Jack nodded, but deep down, fear was gnawing at him. Would Mark rally the others against them? Would they stand alone in this fight? As they resumed their conversation, the flickering light seemed to dim. Jack stole a glance at Jenna. He wanted her to believe, to have hope, but doubt shadowed the corners of his heart. Suddenly, a loud crash rang from outside, unexpected, jolting. Jack's heart dropped again. What was that? Unease surged through the group as they rushed towards the door, the air filled with uncertainty and a growing tension that felt almost suffocating. What had happened now? Would the things they were building be swept aside like dust in a storm? The door swung open, and Jack led the group outside, the thrumming pulse of apprehension echoing in his ears. The night air was sharp, cutting through the warmth of the barn like a blade. As they stepped into the open, the moonlight illuminated the scene, a small table, toppled over, with papers scattered like fallen leaves. But it wasn't the mess that held their attention. Standing in the middle of the chaos was a girl, no older than 17, with vibrant red hair cascading wildly around her face. She wore an oversized flannel shirt that swamped her thin frame, and her eyes darted nervously between the scattered papers and the crowd staring at her. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. "What happened?" Jack called out, stepping closer. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," she blurted, her voice trembling. "I was just trying to get a message to Ethan." Ethan pushed past Jack, concern etched on his face as he approached her. "What message? What's going on?" The girl took a steadying breath, visibly shaking but determined. "I'm Amy. I know this is all crazy, but I heard about what you're trying to do. I needed you to hear something important." Marcus' presence loomed in Jack's mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a simple message. The crowd behind them murmured, some impatient, as Jack's curiosity overcame his hesitation. "What is it?" Ethan urged gently, trying to ease her anxiety. Amy's gaze flitted toward the ground, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her shirt. "I found something that could help. We're not just a town that has fallen apart, we have something valuable hidden, but valuable." Jack could feel the crowd surge in interest. "What do you mean?" he asked, his heart racing. "There's an old silver mine up on the East Ridge," Amy explained, her voice growing steadier as she spoke. "It's been forgotten, just like everyone thinks this town is. But I've been visiting it, there's still silver there. We could dig it out and sell it. It'll bring money, jobs, hope back to this place." A ripple of disbelief ran through the crowd. Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, but it danced cautiously with the uncertainty that had settled. "Have you talked to anybody else about this?" "I was afraid," she admitted, looking down. "I didn't want to get into trouble, but then I heard Mark talking about the town meeting, and I just felt like I had to say something." "Why would we trust you?" Marcus' familiar voice cut through the air as he emerged from the shadows of the barn, his expression skeptical but intrigued. "You're just a kid. What do you know about running a mine? What if it's a waste of time?" Amy's eyes narrowed, her voice rising with quiet defiance. "It's not a waste if you give it a shot. This town needs something to believe in, and I'm telling you, this is it." Jack could see the conflict etched across Marcus' face. It was a chance, one that could either fall apart or breathe new life into the stagnant air around them. The crowd was restless, their whispers rising like a symphony of doubt and curiosity. Jack's heart was pounding, brimming with the possibility of change, the fear of it slipping away again pulling at his gut. Was Amy right? Could this small glimmer, this risky venture, be the spark that would help them rise from the ashes of doubt? Every eye was now on him and Ethan, waiting for a decision. But as the weight of the moment pressed down on him, Jack felt a chill ripple through the air, a warning of what lay ahead, and just like that, the walls of uncertainty closed in, pressing tighter. Would they step forward toward this risky endeavor, or would they collapse under the weight of skepticism? In the distance, the town's old clock tower chimed, its sound echoing like a heartbeat, strong, persistent, beckoning toward a chance that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. As Jack looked at Jenna, then at Ethan and the trembling girl, he knew whatever answer they chose would change everything. But could they really risk it all once again? As the next chime rang, the air thickened with anticipation, leaving only one question hanging between them: what if this was their last chance to get it right? The silence stretched thin, every eye flicking toward Jack as if he held the key to their future in his hands. He could feel the weight of expectations pressing on him. Behind him, Jenna's breath hitched, fear sparking behind her steady demeanor. Ethan looked hopeful, allowing the slightest hint of a smile, and even Marcus' brows were drawn together in contemplation. Jack opened his mouth, the words teetering on the edge, but hesitated. "Amy," he said, searching for certainty in a daunting moment. "How do you know they're silver? What do you actually have to show us?" The crowd shifted, murmurs drifting like leaves in the wind. In that instant, Amy's composure cracked just enough for Jack to see the depth of her desperation. I've gone in there a few times, okay? I found some pieces. They look old, like what they used to pull out 100 years ago. Just fragments, but what if it's all just a pipe dream?" Mark interjected, his skepticism still lodged deep. "We could waste time chasing shadows." But Amy stepped forward, her chin raised. "And what's the alternative, Mark? Waiting for something to change while this town fades into nothing? We can't let that happen." Jack felt the stirrings of agreement blossom within him. There was something genuine about her passion, a fire that could ignite the collective will of the group. "Maybe it is crazy," he said, grounding himself. "But what if it's not? We've all been sitting around talking about what-ifs, and this is the first thing that feels real in a long time." Around him, the crowd began to shift, the weight of despair lifting just a bit. Strangers turned to each other, sharing glances that spoke louder than words, igniting a flicker of hope. If they could coax this idea into life, Ethan weighed the options. "My uncle used to mine up there. He said it was abandoned because it was too dangerous, but he believed there was still value in it." His eyes lit up, reflecting a shared dream began to take root. "If we could rally some people, gather tools, what about the town council?" Mark countered, his tone still laced with resistance. "We can't just act on a whim. But acting on a whim might be our only shot." Amy's voice rang with fervor. "If you get the council in on this, they might just want to bury the idea instead. We have to take a chance." Jack's heart raced. Her words had a way of lancing through the fog of doubt that had smothered them for so long. "What if we explore the mine? Just a small group. Prove it's real and get more people on board? Then we can convince the council or whoever else." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. The flicker of hope became a flame as they rallied to Jack's suggestion. One by one, faces of the townsfolk shifted from doubt to determination. "Yes," Jenna said, a smile finally breaking through the tension. "Let us take a look. We owe it to ourselves to see if this can work." Jack turned to Amy, hope flaring in his chest. "Are you in?" Her apprehension cracked, and she nodded fiercely. "Yes. I want to help." Just as they began to discuss plans, a sudden rustling from the tree-line caught their attention. A figure loomed in the shadows, watching them, indistinct but near enough to send a shiver through the crowd. Mark's voice dropped, the tension thickening again. "Who is that?" Everyone turned, eyes scanning the dark. The looming figure stepped forward, revealing a face Jack recognized all too well, the town's former sheriff, a man they thought had left years ago. "Looks like you kids are stirring up trouble," the sheriff called, a smirk playing on his lips. "And I have a few things to say about that." Jack felt a chill wash over him, uncertainty flooding back in. Just as they were about to embrace possibility, it seemed their fragile hope was once again hanging in the balance. Would the threats from the past come creeping back, or could they finally break free from the shackles holding them down? As they faced the shadow of doubt, Jack knew one truth: this was a fight they were ready to take on. But what would it take to finally claim their own future? The words hung in the air, the sheriff's casual tone laced with a hint of menace. Jack swallowed hard, shifting his feet. The weight of the moment bore down, and he could sense the unease ripple through his friends. Jenna's hand tightened around his arm, her grip steadying him, while Ethan glared defiantly at the sheriff. "What do you want, Sheriff Dawson?" Mark asked, voice steady despite the tension crackling like static. The sheriff stepped closer, hands in his pockets, his presence looming like a storm cloud. "I heard you kids talking about the old mine. Thought maybe I'd remind you of the dangers hiding in those walls, and the trouble that comes with digging too deep." Jack clenched his jaw. "We're not afraid of a little hard work. Besides, if there's a chance to save the town, we owe it to ourselves to check it out." "Ambitious, aren't we?" Dawson sneered. "But ambition has a price. You really think you can just waltz in there without consequences? Those tunnels swallowed men whole. He spoke with an eerily calm authority, a reminder of past failures echoing between them. Jack felt the shadows of apprehension creeping in again. Memories of the town as haunting past rumors of cave-ins, lost lives, and dreams swirled in his mind, making it hard to breathe. Dawson continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You think you'll find your silver, huh? A bunch of kids playing treasure hunters in a death trap. It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. We're not kids anymore, Jenna threw back, stepping forward. We're fighting for our future. You don't have to understand, but you can't stop us either. Maybe not, the sheriff replied, his grin widening. But your actions could put you in a place where the help you need ain't coming. You're playing with fire, kids. Silence fell again, heavy and thick. The crowd held their breath, caught between fear and resolve. Jack's heart pounded louder, urgency urging him to speak up, but his throat felt like it was lined with stones. What's your point? Jack asked, finally breaking the silence. You don't get to intimidate us into submission. We have the right to explore our options. Dawson shrugged, nonchalant. Just a warning. Keep your eyes open. The world isn't as kind as you dream it to be. With that, he turned on his heel and retreated into the trees, leaving behind a tension so stark it had practically become a living thing. As the figure melted away, the crowd whispered, uncertainty gnawing at their bravado. Jack looked around, searching for any sign of doubt in the faces he had fought so hard to rally. Fear of the unknown loomed larger, threatening to extinguish their newfound spark. Then, Jenna surprised him by taking a step closer, her chin jutted out defiantly. Let us not let him scare us. He's using old fears against us. We have each other, and we have our dreams right here. Ethan nodded, the glint of defiance returning to his eyes. We need to stick together. The only way this town can survive is if we reclaim it. The mine might be our last shot. One by one, the townsfolk's faces changed, a fire igniting again. Jack's heart soared. They weren't going to be pushed around. They were a band of hopeful dreamers standing firm against the weight of their past. We go in tomorrow, Jack declared, voice steady with purpose. We'll scout it out. No one's getting hurt, and we're not being reckless. But we owe it to ourselves to look. Cheering erupted, hope rekindled in their eyes. Jack watched their faces brighten, seen anew in the dimming twilight. As this new wave of determination surged through him, he grinned, imagining the possibilities, but that feeling of hope was quickly replaced by a creeping sense of dread. Could they truly trust their past not to catch up with them? And as day turned to night, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that Sheriff Dawson's words weren't just threats, they were warnings wrapped in a sinister layer of truth. Determination clashed with anxiety in Jack's gut as darkness enveloped the town. With the mine looming in the shadows ahead, he thought about what lay beneath. What secrets were buried, and were they prepared to face whatever darkness awaited them? A small voice whispered in his mind, was this truly a new beginning? Or merely the prelude to a much darker chapter? The sun rose over the Texas plains, painting the sky in warm shades of orange and gold. Jack Tanner stood at the entrance of the old silver mine, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. Ethan, Jenna, Amy, and a handful of townsfolk gathered around him, their faces a mix of determination and trepidation. Today was a monumental day, they were about to uncover the truth behind the whispers of silver buried deep in the earth. All right, everyone, stay close and stay safe, Jack called out, his voice steady despite the fluttering nerves in his stomach. The group nodded, the spark of hope flickering amidst the uncertainty. As they stepped into the mouth of the mine, the air shifted. Darkness wrapped around them, but their flashlights cut through it like beams of bravery. Jack could hear the echoes of their footsteps, a rhythmic reminder that they were not alone. Each step seemed to resonate with the dreams and fears of the community, amplifying their connection to this venture. Jack led the way, heart pounding with anticipation. Jenna stayed close, her eyes scanning the rugged walls, her spirit a steadying force. Do you really think we'll find something? She whispered, her voice echoing against the damp rock. He turned to face her, nodding with conviction. We will. This is our shot. We can't go back now. Behind them, Amy continued to recount her previous explorations of the mine. "There are old shafts we can check out too. They might yield something worth digging deeper for." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Jack felt the tension in his body ease a bit. They followed her lead, moving deeper into the mine, their flashlights revealing old remnants of tools rusting and forgotten. Memories of the town echoed loudly in Jack's mind. Suddenly, the beam of Jack's flashlight hit something shiny, causing his heart to skip. "Over here. I think I found something." He rushed over, kneeling to examine the glimmering object partially buried in the dust. The group gathered around, peering down. It was a cluster of old silver filigree, a testament to the hard work of those who had come before them. A collective gasp echoed through the darkened air. "Do you see this?" Jack breathed, excitement bubbling to the surface. "If there is more of this could bring hope back to our town." Ethan grinned, the thrill of the hunt enveloping him like a warm embrace. "This is just the beginning. We have to dig it out, prove it's real. If we get this to the council, we can show them the potential." Jack's heart soared at the thought. They were no longer drowning in uncertainty, they were on the verge of revolutionizing their future, a community bound by shared dreams rather than despair. They would gather their families, their friends, and their strength to make the town flourish once again. But as they stepped back to plan their next move, the memory of Sheriff Dawson's warnings hung in the air like an unwelcome fog. What if they faced a danger hidden away, buried deep among the silver? "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," Jenna said, reading the doubt in Jack's eyes. "This is our town. Our community." Her confidence radiated warmth around them. After hours of careful excavation, they emerged from the mine, dirty and tired but victorious. They gathered in a huddle, their voices brightening with laughter and relief as sunlight flooded them. "I can't believe we did it," Amy exclaimed, a huge smile stretching across her face. Jack looked into the eyes of his friends Jenna, Ethan, Amy, and the others. They had turned what was once a dream into reality, standing strong like the rugged hills that surrounded them. They formed a plan to present their discoveries at the next town meeting. Mark's dismissal now felt like a distant echo, his uncertainty overshadowed by the undeniable strength of unity. This was more than a mine filled with silver, it was a resurrection of shared hopes, reinforcement of bonds, and a promise of a future intertwined with the past. Days turned into weeks as they organized the presentation. Jack noticed the community growing closer, mending old fractures, celebrating their victories together. The barn transformed into a vibrant hub where stories were shared, memories cherished, and history respected. Finally, the day of the town meeting arrived. The barn was filled to capacity. Greeting everyone, Jack stood tall, heart racing with excitement. "Today, we reclaim our future," he announced, his voice echoing off the barn walls. "We have a chance to bring back the life our town once knew. We've found silver, and with it the power to craft a new beginning if we do it together." As he spoke, Jack saw the sparks of connection glimmer in the eyes of the townsfolk, the whispers of encouragement surrounding him like a warm blanket. They presented their findings, their plans, and their dreams. The crowd erupted in cheers that shook the very walls of the barn, lifting their spirits to heights they thought were forever out of reach. As the meeting concluded, they looked at one another, hearts full. The past was no longer just a memory, it had transformed into a guide that would lead them forward. Mark's familiar scowl appeared near the back, his expression tentative. But as he listened to the passion and resolve from the crowd, even he seemed to soften. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the turning point for all of them. Jack knew they'd face challenges ahead, but together, they were ready to carve a legacy worthy of the stories etched into the landscape of their town. They'd overcome the shadow of doubt, turning adversity into triumph, embracing the heartwarming truth of shared purpose. Jack Tanner stepped outside under the vast Texas sky, breathing in the crisp air filled with promise. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and purple, signaling a bright and hopeful dawn. And in that moment, surrounded by friends, family, and the unwavering spirit of their community, he realized they were not just reclaiming their past, they were forging a better future. This was the moment to celebrate, to believe, and to make a stand. Jack smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. They had discovered a hidden gem far richer than silver. They had found one another. Don't let this moment slip away. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this community thriving. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, and feelings about this incredible transformation. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of hope. This is the moment to show your support. Never underestimate the power of community. Don't wait not even one more second to share.